Alright, what's up YouTube, your boy ChasmRift here, and today I got a video going over my Indianapolis Regionals 2022 experience. Here to talk about just how I did being VGC, Masters Division, talk about the ups, the downs, and just basically give coverage over the matches that I've experienced. I know this video is like a week overdue, but the reason I didn't record this is it is hot as hell where I'm at. I returned back home to Chicago because my lease was up in my college apartment, and it is hot. So the option was either I record this and there's a fan blasting into my mic, or I wait till it was cool enough to me to record this without having to have a fan on. So here we go. I only have my PC set up. I'm about to do renovations to my room. There's an ETA on when I'm going to be able to make content or stream in the future, but it's going to happen sometime soon. So yeah. Recording this on my laptop. I don't know how this is going to turn out, so bear with me. Anyways, this is the team I ran, and the idea for this team fundamentally was I wanted to have a way to counter weather. So, Team Swordfish, Team Wet Dog, whatever you want to call them, that is one of the most common teams to run out there because the typing for Zashi and Kyogre synergy really strong. It's a very simple team to just hop into and play with. So that's a team that's been having a lot of high usage. Its usage has started to dip. That's a team that had a lot of high usage because of just the simple fact that it's pretty easy to hop into and very strong. And then on the other hand, you have Sun, which is starting to pick up in popularity, as I predicted at the start of Series 12. Sun was winning a lot of events, and I felt that with Sun being very strong, as well as Rain being strong and accessible, that you see a lot of that at the event. So I wanted a way to basically essentially counter both of them. And I came up with this team. This is a team that was on my mind for over a month. And yeah, essentially the idea was to be like unconventional, but very strong and consistent. So yeah, now you may be asking yourself like, well, why am I not running something like a Charizard or a Venusaur if I'm running a team with Groudon? And that's exactly why. You know, I love and respect weather, and obviously weather is strong for a good reason, but the strengths and weaknesses of weather is exposed by its own nature. So whenever a Pokemon doesn't have the weather that it needs, that's when you start to see like its flaws. There's a difference between a Charizard in the sun versus a Charizard when it's raining. So I didn't want to play around that reality. I didn't want to rely too much on the weather factor. I just wanted a way to basically counter those type of teams. So yeah, this is the team I came up with. I have Groudon with the Assault Vest, Adamant in Nature. Has 164 HP, 188 attack, 4 defense, 108 depth, and 44 speed. So originally I wasn't running 44 speed. I did this because I saw on Philip Isaac's Liverpool top 8 coverage that his Groudon ran 44 speed, and it was done like this to speed creep Zacian and Charizard if it was able to get +1 speed. So as you'll see later on, I got Regieleki with bounce. I got Tailwind on my Whimsicott. So if I ever in a situation where Groudon wasn't at +2, but he was rather like at +1, I wanted us to be able to outspeed those Pokemon if they're the standard ones. I think Max Speed Zacian outspeeds Groudon still. So, but still, most people aren't running the Max Speed Zacian. That's what I kind of had. I kind of sacrificed my attack for the extra speed, and it may or may not matter for some of my matchups, but it's hard to tell. But I'm running P-Blaze, Heat Crash, Thunder Punch, and Shadow Claw. So all these moves, I got good value out of them as max options. In terms of single usage, not so much. I think I could use Shadow. I didn't use Shadow Claw as much as I like. And Precipice Blades, we'll come back to that in a minute. Next, we got the Kyurem White. We got Choice Scarf Kyurem White, running max attack, max speed. Timid Nature with Draco Meteor, Earth Power, Freeze Dry, Fusion Flare. So the method to this was, I felt that with Kyurem White's base 170 special attack, that it was strong enough to actually do well without the need for Life Orb. When I later did calcs, I found that wasn't the case, as Zacian lives Earth Power without the Life Orb, or without Dynamax, which just shows how broken Zacian is. So I ultimately decided that, like, hey, we're gonna run Fusion Flare, because if we get the Sun up, Fusion Flare one-shots Zacian. But outside of that, like, Kyurem White is a really strong Pokemon. Freeze Dry is great to deal with Kyogre. It's a great Groudon answer. The fact that if you face like opposing Dragon type Pokemon, just like against Rayquaza, against Eternus, things like that, Get essentially one-shot with Draco Meteor. Your one-shot requires up to Freeze Dry. Palkia is also able to get one-shotted by Freeze Dry. It's a really good answer to a lot of things in the meta. This is why I ultimately went with the way I went with it. And then if I'm in a situation where I got speed control, or we're just naturally faster, if we Dynamax, we're still hitting hard. Like, these attacks, as max moves, with a base 170 Pokemon, even without Life Orb, it's gonna hit like a truck. Make no mistake. Next we got Regieleki with Life Orb, max special attack, max speed, timid, running Electro Whip, Thunderbolt, Bounce, and Protect. Now you may be asking why am I running Bounce? Like I said, I wanted to have speed control, so if there was a situation where I couldn't have Whimsicott out there, or we're having a Tailwind War, if I need to get extra speed control, that's where Bounce came in. Or if I need to be in a worse situation where I want Kieran White to hit hard or Groudon to hit hard, but I don't want to max them, then I was gonna, Dynamax Eleki for Bounce, my +1, and then let them do their thing. So you may be asking yourself, well, why didn't I just go physical and get full mileage out of the Bounce? The reason I didn't want to go that route is because a lot of people are running Incineroar. We've seen a lot of Intimidates out here, and if somebody wants to just cycle Intimidates on me, then if I ran physical Lecky, we just wouldn't be able to get that much damage in. I think if we're like at -1 right off the bat, we won't be able to one-shot Incineroar with the Max Lightning, and I didn't want to do with anything like that. I don't want the ability to one-shot the Zacians, to one-shot the Incineroar, or if I can't do that, they're really hurt. So I was like, you know what, we're just going to go special. If we're going to go for Bounce, we're going for Bounce solely for the speed control, not the damage output. And that's kind of where I came with. I didn't get that much mileage out of it in the actual tournament. There just wasn't that many situations where I could use Bounce. And prior to Bounce, I was using Hyper Beam, but again, if my opponent got hit with -1, all they gotta do is swap out and it doesn't matter anymore. So that's why I was ultimately going with Bounce. In hindsight, would I have done something like Assurance to prepare for this meta? Maybe, but at the same time, with how hyper offensive things were when I practiced, I just felt that Bounce is a good answer to just give me speed control and just pure speed control. Then we got Whimsicott, running Focus Sash, max special attack, max speed. Got Tailwind helping hand, Energy Ball Protect. I ain't gotta go over this too much. Energy Balls for Groudon answers to deal with Gastrodon if we ran into it. We're running Protect so that opponents can't fake me out and try to one-shot in. Whimsicott also, it's good to let me protect against like a max Hailstorm from my Kyogre, which could bring Whim to Sash and then get Hail Chip. If we protect, we can live it a little bit better. So yeah, that's why we're rocking it. Scrafty's working the typical set. The 44 speed is there to speed creep Comet Incineroars, and this actually mattered in one of my matchups. One of my opponents brought their Incineroar out, I brought Scrafty. I was able to get the fake out faster. He was surprised to see that, and we were able to get our setup, and we were able to win that game. So Scrafty, just like everybody else, did their job. And then we got Mimikyu. Mimikyu's the secret sleeper MVP for my team in this tournament. Rocking safety goggles to ignore Spore, to ignore redirection from powders and whatnot. Take no chip damage from weather, which actually kind of mattered to one of the matchups. Max HP, max attack. Running Adamant with Trick Room, Taunt, Play Rough, Shadow Sneak. Trick Room was to mostly counter other people who were running Trick Room. Taunt was there to taunt pretty much everything, especially dark types which can't be hit with Prankster. So that's where I put the taunt at for my Mimikyu. We're running Play Rough and Shadow Sneak. These are really good strong options. Like if the opponent had Palkia on their team, I could hit them with a Max Starfall to get the one shot. I got Shadow Sneak for Max Phantasm. So if I got the next Groudon, they can both hit like trucks because we get a -1 defense drop. And then either go for Play Rough or go for wherever Groudon wants to go for. Shadow Sneak breaks Calyrexes down to their Sash if they're not max bulk. And even if they're not Sash, pretty much a one shot. Yeah. I played over 100 games this team, recorded those, put them on my iPad, and I was watching film of them on the bus and in my hotel room. And the only big difference that this team had was we had Porygon 2 instead of Mimikyu, but I felt that Mimikyu was a little bit stronger overall. Because outside of Trick Room, P2 didn't offer me that much in comparison to what Mimikyu could bring to the table. So these are the matchups I had. I went 3-6, and what I want to preface is this team was not the issue. The issue was a lot of self-inflicted wounds and just unfortunate circumstances. This team was actually really strong. I'm going to have the pace for down below if you want to try it out. But again, just a preference, this isn't a team that you can just immediately plop in and get 13 wins. Like, this is a team that it takes a little bit of understanding what works for them, their pros and cons. It's tailored to play how I wanted them to play. So if you're someone who doesn't play the exact same way I do, you may struggle out the gate with this team, but I feel like it is really strong once you get the hang of it. So if you want to try it out like for Showdown or anything, I'm going to have a pace down below. But yeah, I went 3-6, and it's mostly self-inflicted wounds. And I will try to speed through these, because I already did a recording of this, and it was way too long. So yeah, let's speed through this. Round 1, we played against a guy named Patrick, and they're really nice. He'll tell me this is his first event since 2010, and yeah, so I'm playing OG of the game. He's running standard Sun with Milotic on the team instead of, like Gastrodon. And game 1, I won. Had a clutch crit into his Incineroar, and then I was able to just ultimately win. Yeah, it was a pretty textbook win for me. I was feeling pretty good about this. And in game 2, he revealed that he had Scary Face on his Grimmsnarl, and this mattered because typically we ran against like Underwave. That's what it was in the meta for the most part. But I think people transitioned over because of the fact that Scary Face is guaranteed to hit almost anything in the meta. And while T-Wave could potentially miss, we ran T-Wave is for the fact that you can have paralysis later on in the game. But Scary Face is really good if you want to stop the opponent immediately. So game 2, he was able to actually dodge the key Precipice Blades that allowed his Grimmsnarl to live. And I don't want to say that mattered for the entire set or just that game. But because that Grimmsnarl was able to live, he was able to hit off more Scary Faces on my team. And yeah, we were able to lose because they just had too much pressure on me. In game 3, I ultimately decided not to bring Mimikyu. I put Mimikyu on the bench for all the games, and I wish I didn't because Mimikyu's taunt would have mattered for the Grimmsnarl. I banked on us hitting Precipice in it, and Groudon not only missed not 1, not 2, but 6 Precipice Blades this game. He missed one against Grimmsnarl, which would have knocked down like 75%. And then he missed against Grimmsnarl and Groudon together twice. As in both of them are out there, and we missed them both twice. So now we're up to 5 misses. And then we missed the 6th one. I believe missed it into, I forget, it was either into the Grimmsnarl or to the Groudon. But yeah, all 6 Precipice Blades missed. Ultimately costed me. I played poorly here too. Throughout the set I did max Groudon, and he swapped in Charizard, and they ate up my Max Quake because they're immune to it. So there were times where I just played incorrectly. I think. So yeah. Yeah. Looking back, I could have just been I could have been slightly better at how I played, and but yeah, those Precipice Blades, they did hurt. Round 2, we played against Nick, and he had Indy with Dialga. At first I thought it was potentially Trick Room, but it turned out he was not. He was hyper offensive with Dialga running Life Orb. He revealed all 4 of his max moves to me. He had Max Hailstorm, Flash Cannon, Max Wormwind, and Earth Power. And Dialga was fast with Telepathy. This is pretty crucial because while he's able to 0-4 me for the win, he revealed too much information about his Dialga to me. Game 2, we went in, and yeah, we came in with all the smoke. We were like, look, we're going to be prepared for your lead. Came in, we were trying to hit some precipices. We did miss one at some point in the game. I don't remember when, but we did miss. But we're still able to get the W. It was a pretty good win. His Grimmsnarl revealed to have screens, but yeah, we took that one pretty handily. His Indeed was also rocking Protect and Follow Me. Find out later on in the set. Game 3, game 3, we led the same. This time he tried to swap Dialga out. If I remember correctly, I think he tried to swap Dialga out into Grim, and then Grim got one-shotted. I want to say that's what happened, but wait, let's go back to game 2. I'm forgetting something crucial. I already said this. I think because I already said this in the previous recording. So game 2, we were in a weird situation. His Dialga was at 10 to 15%, and I only had Helium White and Scrafty left. We still had Indeedee and still had Landorus. I had the bright idea to try and, mind you, my Hero Might is Scarf, so I had to lock myself with one move, and we already wasted our max, because I think I swapped the Landorus on a max Quake on me, and we wasted that turn. So we had no max, Dialga was at 50%, and I locked myself with the Freeze Dry. I was hoping that Freeze Dry would be enough to get the one shot, or just clean up the Dialga, but it wasn't. When that happened, I thought to myself, oh damn, we just lost. But he decided to use Max Worm, Life Orb, Stab Boosted, Attack into Scrafty, and the Goat lived. And because Scrafty lived, the combination of the Hail Chip and just the Hail Chip that they had up from earlier ultimately had them drop. So now we're down to Indy and Landorus, and Scrafty lived. We doubled into Indy because they used Follow Me. Scrafty lived a Rock Slide, and we also lived the Hail Chip. And because we lived those attacks, Kieran White was able to take less damage from the Rock Slide. So then when it was down to a 1v1, my opponent was able to Rock Tomb my Kieran White, and they dropped my speed. This is where the Choice Scarf becomes important, because the next turn, my opponent thinks I'm -1 with my speed, but because of Choice Scarf, I'm essentially a neutral. And for those who don't know, Kieran White is faster than Landorus. So when we went for our attacks, I went for my Freeze Dry, we outsped, we hit the KO, and we ultimately won game 2. And then game 3, we just came with all the smoke, we just blasted through them. So yeah. Going into round 3, we played against this interesting team with Calyrex Ice, Kyogre, with it, Loading Executor. People are told and they're like surprised to hear that Loading Executor is being used, but I actually faced a team just like this on the ladder. Issue was, the team I faced on the ladder had Indeedee rocking eject button. So when I was facing that on the ladder, so what that team would do is they'll follow me, we hit them with the move, the eject button activates, and they bring in either the Executor or the Calyrex Ice while the other one goes for Trick Room. And that was not the case here. We lost game 1 because we were just not prepared for the craziness they brought. Game 2, we adjusted properly. We were able to even actually stall out a full Dynamax. I was able to stall out a full Trick Room, but they revealed Sleep Powder on their Loading Executor, and of course they hit it. And then when they revealed that their Indeedee was Focus Sashed, and that mattered because the Indeedee being able to live was able to swap out, come back in, get some redirection going, and we were not able to call out a second Trick Room by them. Had we did, things could have been a little bit different, but yeah, we lost because calling for that additional Trick Room later on in the game, that's really hard to do at times. Like, it's really risky. Like, if you misread it, either you could lose because the other Pokemon's going to attack, or you could win. And those are tough situations to be in. So I ended up losing. It was speed through these. So I was 1 and 2. Ended up playing round 4, and I wanted to cry because when I saw my matchup pairing, I couldn't believe it. I was paired up with Justin Karas. The reason I couldn't believe this is because Justin Karas is somebody who made it to Worlds multiple times. And for those who don't know, he's the same guy who actually team builds with Wolf Glick and Aaron Traylor. So he's really good. And I was surprised he was at 1 and 2 record like I was. And we sat down, we talked. I asked him, was he V Justin Karas? He said, yeah, but he said he doesn't know about the V part. It's pretty humble, it's pretty funny. Nice guy, making dad jokes to the girl next to us because he said she was a small town farm girl or something. So he was making funny jokes. We played. Game 1, I was in the driver's seat, essentially. I was able to get speed control. I had my Dynamax going, and we're feeling good about ourselves. But then he had his Landorus Source Dance, and then he Dynamax Landorus. And I ended up losing because, yeah, we weren't ready for Landorus to hit us with all that pressure. And funny enough, I was down to Kieran White and Whimsicott, and I purposely tossed the very end game because he had Landorus and Zacian left. I went for Helping Hand into my Kieran White, knowing that we're gonna drop. And Justin Karas had the weirdest, like, puzzled look on his face. And I lost because, Behemoth Blade is gonna KO my Kieran White. Yeah, that was game right there. I did that so I didn't reveal that I was Scarf for anything crazy. Going into game 2, however, this is really... You guys are probably gonna judge me for this. So game 2, we play. He leads Incineroar and Zacian. I lead Groudon, Kieran White. I told y'all earlier on that, if the sun is out, Fusion Flare can actually one-shot the Zacian. And that's actually what I was setting up for. This is where it gets really sad. So I have my controller on the table. I don't know why, but the first couple rounds that was happening, I was playing with my controller on the table instead of under the table in my hands like I normally do, like a normal person would. But because I acknowledged that my controller was on the table, I was thinking, oh, maybe if I move the analog stick on my controller, Justin Karas would be psyched out and he would do something weird. I don't know why I had this thought in my mind, but that's what I did. I started cycling between, I clicked Fusion Flare, I started cycling between Incineroar and Zacian. And then I accidentally clicked A, and my Fusion Flare went into the Incineroar slot. I was distraught. I told Justin I misclicked, And when he saw that my Kieran was faster, went to the Fusion Flare into the Incineroar instead of his Zacian, he even acknowledged that I would have won that game had I hit that turn 1. So I was distraught. I was sad because not only could I have won and potentially had a game 3 and potentially upset a multi-time Worlds competitor, but I could have been that guy who knocked Justin Karras out of the running for, CP or top cut at the event. Justin was cool because later on he even approached me later on in the tournament, asked me how I was doing in the run and everything about that. Like, he didn't have to do that, but the fact that he did, it kind of showed that he had a little bit of respect for me as a player, and I feel good about that. Even though I never misclicked like that so hard before. Anyways, move on. We're playing against Pat. Pat was pretty cool. We're playing game 1. I don't remember what happened at all. He just beat me. I think he just overwhelmed me with hyper offense. Like, I think he led like Whimsicott, Dundee, and he just overwhelmed me. I don't remember this matchup at all. I really don't. Like, in fact, these next few, I don't remember much about them. I think I kind of just like blocked those memories out because of how heartbreaking these games got. But yeah, I lost game 1. Then game 2, I do remember explicitly that I led Scrafty, Mimikyu. I set the Trick Room against them. I think they led Whimsicott, Calyrex. Set up Trick Room, and then I was ultimately able to beat them because their team was not prepared for this Trick Room smoke. And yeah, Scrafty and Mimikyu, they put in the work. Game 3, I think I led Mimikyu and Whim. I was able to taunt their Whimsicott, get up my Tailwind, and then I was able to just win with Groudon in the back. And yeah, that was a fun one. I also believe, I do remember explicitly, like, we had an end game in game 3 where it came down to Groudon versus Zacian, and he had Protect and Substitute on his Zacian. So what he did was, he was trying to Protect and Substitute stall me. I did Heat Crash earlier out of the sun, and I did about 20-ish, 30%. That's not enough for me to get the KO. So he had to Protect and Substitute stall because he knew that the only way I could really beat him was if I hit my Precipice Blades. So he was trying to do that with the hopes that I miss. Had I missed the Precipice Blades, all he would need is 2 Behemoths and he'd win. So, funny enough, I was able to hit all of my P-Blades, and I went for Heat Crashes during the turn I knew he would Protect. When it came down to it, when it came down to it and he used his final Substitute, I was able to break it with P-Blades. And then it came down to the penultimate turn, where he attacked me with Behemoth, I lived, and then my Heat Crash was just enough to knock him out. It was smart on his end because his end game was he had to bank on me missing a P-Blades, and then I get the KO, or maybe I go for Heat Crash and not do enough to the Substitute. But yeah, he had to play to that end game. I respect it. It's just that Groudon finally decided to make up for the misses he had a little bit earlier. Tate is round 6, and I don't remember too much about this besides the fact that Rayquaza and Landorus, they rocked me. I believe what he did was he had turn 1, I think game 1 he brought Whimsicott with Lando. He was able to get the speed control going, and then Landorus just blocked me. In game 2, I tried to sub Trick Room. This is really bad. Even in my notes, I said we don't go for Trick Room unless we absolutely have to. And I went for Trick Room, swapped in his Amoonguss, and that's pretty much a wrap right there. All he had to do was for the slot that wasn't Mimikyu, and he kind of just took over from there. Yeah, so I lost. I'm not glossing over these L's because I lost them, just I really don't remember these games. Next game against John, I honestly, God, don't remember how this went. If I had to take a good guess, I would have to say he probably went for Tailwind, and he used Dundee, and he just overwhelmed me. That's all I could think of on paper, but yeah, I lost. And then round 8, this one I remember because there's just no way in hell I couldn't remember this matchup against Samuel. So against Samuel, this was a bit interesting. So he led Cresselia in turn of this game 1, and he revealed that his Cresselia is looking a little bit like a best of one-ish Cresselia, rocking Trick Room, Helping Hand, Ally Switch, and Icy Wind. So the Cresselia revealed all that, and I didn't know anything about the alternatives going into this. I was thinking it could have been the Cosmic Power variant, could have been Meteor Beam Power Herb, which it was, or it could have just been like some type of weird hyper offensive set. Actually, it wasn't Meteor Beam, it was the Life Orb, but offensive. So they revealed all these moves to us. They revealed Ally Switch when it mattered, and alternatives able to dodge and key moves that allowed it to live, and they were able to just beat me handedly. They beat me 0-3. Game 2, because they revealed too much information to me, I was able to actually call an Ally Switch and they were going for it, and I was able to get the KO into Eternatus. So that felt good. and then we're able to just ultimately win because we had the right pressure. Like he was able to Dynamax get the one hit into the Yveltal, and yeah, we just kind of rolled from there. Game three, though, this is where it was sad. Uh, we were in a situation where we froze their Cresselia with the freeze dry, and we all they still had to turn this out, but we were able to. So we let Scrafty cure him. I was able to fake out the Eternatus, and I went for the freeze dry. But I think they ally switched, and they got hit by it, and they got froze. So what we did was this turn, I was like, all right, what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna Dynamax, go for Max Worm, and KO the Eternatus. For those who don't understand yet, and I didn't understand, and I didn't realize until after I clicked the move, was that my choice scarf would be nullified. So my brain was out of it. I was not thinking clearly. Otherwise, I wouldn't have done this. I Dynamaxed, nullified my choice scarf, and then because I Dynamaxed, Eternatus was faster, and they're able to Dynamax cannon me and get the one shot, and I wasted my Dynamax. Thankfully, Cresselia was frozen for a majority of the game, so we were able to just funnel the other slot. And that allowed me to actually make some type of comeback, but ultimately I lost because, wasted my max, and Scrafty was down to a 2v1 against Seismitoad and Eternatus. He did get the KO against Cresselia, but, that's too much to ask, especially when I'm playing so poorly. And then finally, our last matchup was against Chance, and Chance was an interesting matchup. I knew he was going to lead Kumpe Zekrom. That's pretty common. You got the weakness policy. So what you'll do is you'll self-proc weakness policy with the triage ability from Kumpe. And I was like, I'm going to let you get that. So I let Mimikyu Groudon. I went for P-Blaze and I taunted the Kumpe. And yeah, we're able to bring a lot of pressure. He has screens on his Grimmsnarl, but he brought too much pressure. Got the W game 1 because P-Blaze did about like 45 to 50% to Zekrom. And they just didn't have enough smoke to deal with us. I believe I Dynamaxed my Mimikyu, funny enough, game 1. And with our disguise being broken, we still went for like a max Starfall. That was kind of funny. Game 2, we lost. They swapped it up on us a little bit, and we ultimately just ended up losing. I don't remember how they beat me. I want to say that I do have in my notes that Kyogre was Water Spout at some point. So I think they Dynamaxed Kyogre, and they just brought a lot of pressure that way. And in game 3, we essentially caught them with their pants down. They led the same way. Kumpe Zekrom. This time I was ready to just max my Groudon and get it over with. They decided to actually swap out into their Grimmsnarl, and then Grimmsnarl got one-shotted. And then from there on, it was kind of GG's for them. Because when Grimmsnarl got one-shotted, they brought in Zekrom. They didn't Dynamax Zekrom for some reason. That got one-shotted. And then when they did bring out the Kyogre, who's their final Pokemon, they finally maxed it. But, again, I got Pure and White. I got Groudon. Groudon had some Spadef boost, so there was just really no real out for him with their Kyogre. So yeah, I ended up going 3-6. Looking back, I could have done better. Like game 1, round 1, that was a toss-up. If I didn't miss my moves, if I brought Mimikyu, which is character development. Their Grimmsnarl in round 9 also has Scary Face, but I brought Mimikyu to taunt that thing. So I learned from my mistakes from round 1, but this time in round 9. Had I just trusted Mimikyu round 1, because it was the least used Pokemon at the time for me, I could have potentially won round 1. I lost against Justin Karras. That came down to me just misclicking. If I actually clicked that move, who's to say what would have happened in round 3? I would have momentum on my side, and Justin Karras would have been sweating about my scarf. Anything could happen in round 3. And then, of course, the match against Samuel. That was just me being bad. Like, if I locked myself into Draco Meteor, could have been different. Had I swapped out, could have been different. Had I just done anything but Dynamax that turn, things could have been different. But yeah, that's kind of how it came down. Alright, so what did I learn and what can I change from this experience? So first thing I want to address is that I took a risk and it didn't pay off. Like I said, I think this team is strong. Looking back, I don't think this team would have done amazingly well. I think you have to autopilot it really, really well to have great results. But I think the majority of my L's are from just self-inflicted wounds. So because of that, I just want to go back to doing more traditional team compositions. That's not to say I won't try anything different. I won't try anything unconventional. Hell, when you look at the matchups I had, a lot of my opponents were also running something else unconventional, and because of that, I saw less rain and sun than I anticipated. That being said, I want to go to like a more traditional comp just to, give myself. I don't want to say like give myself a better chance to win. If I try something out that I know is actually very strong, then it becomes less about my ability to stay focused in the matchup and understand like where my outs are, and more so like I have a little bit more leverage for my team to back me up whenever I'm in a bind. That being said, I want to play against people with higher showdown ratings. So when you play on showdown, it is very volatile. It's the wild wild west. When you're on a low ladder, you got a lot of people running a bunch of unconventional stuff. You got people trying to run, with standard, but they're maybe not as skilled. And then on the higher ladder, again, you got a lot of festival cheese there, but you also got people who are really good playing standard stuff. So I'm trying to go into like that middle, like sweet area, like 1400s to maybe high 1600s. If I were to get into that while practicing, then I'll see a nice little sweet balance. People who are good, who are trying standard stuff, and you may see like minimal cheese. You'll still see it, but you won't see it to the high volume of high ladder or low ladder. I want to get in more best of 3 practice. Only best of 3 practice I got in was playing against Golden, and this is like at 1 in the morning. He was able to beat me in all the matches, and part of me wanted to chalk it up to the fact that like, hey, it was 1 in the morning, I was tired, I just got off of work not too long ago. But at the end of the day, like, he's a good player. I should just take that more into like account. I did record the matches, and was trying to like visualize how I could play better. But I think getting more best of 3 practice would be good in general, because no matter how much you practice, you still need to get that experience in before going into a regional. And then I want to spread out my playtesting. So what my opponents, when they heard about the week I had leading up to the regionals, they were all surprised. And cause like I said, I played about 100 games, but the thing about that was during those 100 games I was playing, it was around the week of finals. So I had to do my final exams. I had to turn in essays. I had to turn in projects. Funny enough, I had to turn in an essay while I was at the hotel in Indy on the Friday before regionals, because that essay was due that day. So I had to do that. I told my job I could work, and I idiotically did that. I think they might give me like a lighter like schedule because they understand my final week, and they were cool with me. But nope, I ended up working about 32 hours within my final week of working. While that was happening, I had to move out of my apartment. As I said, my lease was up. I had to move out of my apartment and move things to storage, and also pack to go back to Chicago. That took way longer than I thought it would. And on my drive to Chicago, that took about 7 hours altogether. About 5.5 hours on the road, about an hour and a half of me just resting to fuel up or just take a nap. So yeah, when I got to Chicago, I had to basically like 6 hours later hop on a Greyhound to Indy. So yeah, life was pretty hectic for me during the week leading up to Indy, while I was still trying to fit in 100 games. So what I want to do is in the future, I want to spread out the playtesting instead of doing it like the final week, because for those who don't know, I made a video, posted in my Pokemon chat. Now it's kind of buried in there, and then I sent it to certain people like DMs. For those who've seen that video, you guys know what's up. For those who don't, let's just say like but those last few weeks I had were kind of interesting. But in the future, I want to spread out my playtesting, do it for like up to 2 weeks before the event at the earliest. Get the 100 games in, give myself a chance to relax, to rest up, give myself a chance to actually think and collect my thoughts. And I just want to not push myself. So if I have an event coming up, let's say it's a local, let's say it's actually like a regional, and I'm not feeling up to it, I should just have the word thought to say, look, we ain't gotta go. There'll be future events. Let's chill. This is a special case because we're limited to the number of events we could actually go to due to COVID restrictions, and as well as I've been training for this. Also, I thought that I'll be, good enough physically, mentally, emotionally to actually compete despite the hectic week I had. But apparently that wasn't the case, and that's not me making any type of excuse. My ills are still my ills, and we could not overlook that. But yeah, I just want to be kinder to myself in the future and understand what I need to do better with my own self. That being said, what's next for ChasmRift? So I was taking a week-long break. I decided I was going to take a week off. I think this is good to do in general, especially if you didn't have the results that you wanted. Allowed me to get a chance to just decompress, to think about what I did right, did wrong, like things I can improve on, give myself a fair shot to actually, do this video without being biased in my criticisms or like my compliments to myself. So I gave myself just a week, and yeah, I'm gonna change up how I train. This isn't like a sign of caution for anybody. It's just something I was thinking of ever since I got back to Chicago. For those who was here around my Dragon Ball Fighters days, and you saw how I was able to get better like in a short period of time, I'm gonna be taking those from that. So I'm gonna be doing a nice little callback, and yeah, that's the hint I can only give y'all. You'll see when I go back to streaming. Um, I did register for Milwaukee Regionals, and the goal is to actually go there. Again, if it's up in the air if I want to compete or not. It depends on how I'm feeling, depends on how the training's going and whatnot. But yeah, I plan on at least the plan for the summer was to go travel and compete and hopefully go to Worlds. But even with that, the chances of me going to Worlds are kind of bleak now because I didn't do well at Indy. I still want to go to get the experience, to get better, to just learn and grow. So that's the plan. And yeah, basically, I'm just trying to plan ahead for next season. And then, like I said, I just want to continue to grow. I got room to grow. I got a lot more to learn. It's very obvious. Even if I did well, I feel like I still got a lot more to learn. And there's just a lot of room to grow. And yeah, I'm just looking forward to it. Now, I want to say, despite going 3-6, like I still have fun at Indianapolis, but like it was fun seeing old faces I haven't seen since the world ended. It was fun to meet new people and whatnot, but I still just can't get over the fact that I just did so poorly. I did worse than I did in my first regional. I just want to apologize to my friends. I want to apologize to people who supported me, who wished me well, was hoping I'd do well for them. And I just want to apologize to ESG and my signees, the people affiliated with us. Just want to apologize to all of them. You know, like as a co-owner, I felt like it was, and someone who's very active and very much prominent on the social media aspect for our brand. I felt like it was important that like I did well at these events. Not like well as in like, oh, I have to win, I have to be in a stream match, but I mean well as in if I go out there to represent us, I wanted it to be me giving it my best effort, and it was clear that I was not at my best. You could argue like, hey, I could have done immensely better. I could have went whatever record you think of. Sure, you could argue that, but at the end of the day, I feel like all the mistakes I made just shows that I still have a lot more to grow. And I was just being a hypocrite to my own teachings, and I take full responsibility for that. I just think that for me, I gotta hold myself to a higher standard than other people when it comes to this stuff because I want to represent ESG. I want us to grow. I want us to be in that spotlight. I want ESG to have people competing at the World Championships and actually be out there and be a competent team. You know, and for that reason, like it I, I'm just disappointed. Nobody's more disappointed by what happened than I am personally, and it's I just don't want to see this happen again. You'll never see me go 3-6 again at another regional. You'll never see me have a disappointing performance. Will there be times where I may not reach the goal that I want to in the future, or maybe I just don't reach the mark that I'm supposed to reach? Sure, and that's me giving respect to the competitors. There's a bunch of great people out there. I'm not gonna disrespect them by saying I'm gonna beat everybody every day of the week. That's too arrogant. But what you will see is that you won't see a disappointing performance like this again. I won't let that happen. So yeah, one day I'm gonna continue to get better. No one's gonna work harder than me. No one's gonna train harder than me. No one's gonna be dedicated to the grind like I am. And I'm gonna do everything I can to one day have somebody represent ESG at the World Championships and also have a world champion. And I'm a bunch of things, but there's one thing you cannot say about me, and that is I don't break promises. And this right here is a promise. Anyway, guys, I'm about to get out of here. That's it for me. Um, Let me know your thoughts down below. And would you guys try this team out? What would you got to say that could help me out in the future? But anyways, like I said, I'm about to get out of here. This video is long overdue. So bye.